She gave me a thumbs up. Jane, are you good? You good? Okay. We will start. Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, January 28th, 2026, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. Our meeting is live streamed, and you can join us online by going to our website. Other viewing options are available on tctvonline.com. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute their phone. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is read to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Okay, I want to welcome everybody in the room. If you feel so inclined, please sign the guest book so we know who's here. And we will start. Brian, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All right. Is there anybody signed up for public comment?
There is. We have one person online and one person in the room.
Okay, well, let's start with the person in the room. Ooh, Jackie, welcome. Please state your name.
Good morning. As you know, I'm Jacqueline Rogers, and I'm the Court Administrator for Tillamook County Justice Court. I have been an employee with Tillamook County for over 21 years. During those years, I have spent just over 2 years in the Juvenile Department and almost 15 years in the District Attorney's Office. In both of those jobs, I was an AFSCME employee. For the last 4+ years, since November 1st of 2021, I have been the Court Administrator for the Justice Court, which is a non-represented management position. Since moving into management, I have completed an associate's degree in professional office management, and I have obtained the Oregon Association Court Administrators OACA Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3 certification. Today, I would like to present comments for Agendas Item 10 and Agenda Item 15. Regarding Agenda Item 10, the AFSCME pay table. As a manager for Tillamook County, I believe a big part of my job is employee management. This means that I'm responsible for making sure my employees do their job correctly and efficiently, and it also means that I look out for their best interest. That is my main reason I'm before you today. Beginning in April of 2023, Judge Cannell and I officially began seeking reclassification of the Justice Court staff from Legal Assistant 1 to Court Clerk, with the Court Clerk position having 2 classification levels. We had discussed the options regarding this change prior to that date with HR. I won't go into the complete history of what has transpired, but I do want to discuss the pay table that is being proposed to you today and my objections to it. Of the counties listed in the Troop study as comparable counties, only 4 of the comparable counties have justice courts. And from the response I received from those 4 counties, only 2 of those have court clerks, which are a 1-level position, not a 2-level. I will note that the state of Oregon is also included on the comparable list, and it too has several different court clerk positions, including but not limited to courtroom clerk and court operations clerk. I did not take those wages into account. The 4 justice courts in the comparator counties are Columbia County Justice Court, Hood River County Justice Court, Malheur County Justice Court, and Union County Justice Court. Columbia County has a 1-level court clerk position. Their pay range consists of 9 steps ranging between $27.72 an hour to $34.30 an hour as of July 1st, 2024. Hood River County also has a 1-level court clerk position with no court administrator. Their pay range consists of 8 steps ranging between $26.2120 per hour to $35.8729 an hour as of July 1st of 2025. Malheur County did not respond to my request for information. Union County only has a court administrator position. They do not have court clerks. The pay table before you in Agenda Item 10 proposes that the Court Clerk 1 be placed at a pay range 9, which consists of 6 steps ranging between $20.73 an hour to $26.46 an hour, and the Court Clerk 2 be placed at a range 10, which consists of 6 steps ranging between $21.77 an hour to $27.78 an hour. I will also note that all other job classifications with steps appear to be at least 2 pay ranges apart, but for some reason, this job classification is being established at only 1 pay range apart, which is outside the past practices of the county job classifications. I do not know where Troop came up with their information suggesting range 9 and 10 for the new court clerk positions, but I will argue that the information is incorrect. As you can see, with just these two comparators, Tillamook County is under market for the newly created court clerk positions. I do understand that Troop has completed their study and that AFSCME bargaining has been completed, but I believe that the information presented by Troop is flawed. Therefore, I request that you deny the request to approve agenda item 10. If court clerk wages are presented by Troop are this far off, how many other positions might be as well? Now regarding agenda item 15, the non-represented and executive services. Prior to the recent compensation study, the Justice Court Administrator was classified as a pay range 6, while the District Attorney's Office Manager was classified at pay range 7. On page 20 of the Troop Compensation and Pay Equity Study, Troop states that Justice Court Administrator, District Attorney's Office Manager, and Sheriff's Office Manager should all be in the same pay equity group. However, at the end of the study, Troop recommends that the Justice Court Administrator be capped at range 6, claiming that the Justice Court Administrator position is, quote, above market, end quote. I have requested from HR the comparable information that Troop used for the Justice Court Administrator position. However, to this point, I have not been provided with that information. As with the court clerk position, there are only 4 comparable counties with justice courts, and from the responses I received, only 2 of those courts have court administrator positions. I will again note that the state of Oregon is also on the comparable list, and it has several levels of court administrators. Again, the 4 justice courts are Columbia County Justice Court, Hood River County Justice Court, Malheur County Justice Court, and Union County Justice Court. Columbia County does have a court administrator. Their pay range consists of 9 steps ranging between $5,284 a month to $6,540 a month, effective July 1st of 2024. I would like to note that this position, according to the job description, is not responsible for supervising employees, does not appear to manage the department budget, and only requires a high school diploma with training as legal secretary or assistant for 5 years' experience in a related field. Therefore, it appears that this position is more equivalent to a court clerk 2 position than a management position, and would not be an appropriate comparable to be used for Tillamook County Justice Court Administrator position. Hood River County does not have a court administrator. Malheur County did not respond to my request for information. Union County only has a court administrator position. They do not have court clerks. Their pay range consists of 6 steps ranging between $4,979 per month to $6,354 per month, confirmed on January 26th of 2026. I would like to note that this position, according to the job description, is not responsible for supervising any employees, as they do not have any clerks. While they do desire a bachelor's degree in business administration, they will accept a minimum of 5 years administrative services. Since this position does not supervise any employees, nor is this position responsible for any of the obligations that come with supervising employees, this position would not be an appropriate comparable to be used for Tillamook County Justice Court Administrator position. The State of Oregon Trial Court Administrator 1 position has a salary range of $8,767 per month to $13,601 per month. This position desires a bachelor's degree in public or business administration and 1 year in court administration, but any combination of education and 5 years of experience will suffice. This job description most closely compares to that of the Justice Court Administrator for Tillamook County, in that it does have supervisory requirements. However, it does not appear to be responsible for helping to establish the budget. Let it be clear, I am not by any means suggesting that my position should be making $8,767 to $13,601 a month. However, I am suggesting that, again, Troop is wrong in their wage and pay equity proposal. For purposes of pay equity, I do believe that it is appropriate that the Justice Court Administrator position for Tillamook County be at the same pay range as the District Attorney's Office Manager, even though the Justice Court Administrator has the added responsibility of the courtroom duties when additional coverage in the courtroom is needed. Troop did state that these 2 job descriptions were comparable when it comes to internal pay equity. In regards to me personally, I have 21 years with Tillamook County, all in positions that will qualify as administrative duties. I have 5 additional years as a legal assistant prior to working for Tillamook County. I have an associate's degree, and I have 3 levels of court administration certification through AWACA, all of which I believe support the adjustment to pay range 7 for the Justice Court Administrator position. Again, I do understand that Troop has completed their study, and I believe that the information presented by Troop is flawed. Therefore, I request that you deny the request to approve Agenda Item 15. Thank you for allowing me to share my position.
Thank you, Jackie. I forgot to tell you you had 2 minutes, but I wanted you to keep going, so
Thank you.
you're welcome. I want to make sure you were heard. And Deb, we have an online comment? Okay.
Uh,
Mrs. Bailey, go ahead. Good morning.
Good morning. This is April Bailey. I live in Nescoin, Oregon. I again find myself sorry I can't be there in person. I've known Jackie for over 20 years. She's a very impressive and organized person, and I appreciate her testimony made. As I start this comment, by the way, I'm from Nescoin, if I didn't say that. As I start this comment about county employee pay, I want to make sure as a citizen that I say that this is not a comment about specific county employee salaries. I don't want to get into that. And I want to make sure that anyone that hears this knows that all of us appreciate our county employees. They're hardworking. They're generally cheerful. I have very pleasant engagements with them almost all the time. So I very much appreciate them and understand they need to be paid well. I'll make a general comment first about the pay equity study. Whatever reason it was done and mandates, we all know there's a lot of money spent on it. And it sounds like from the comments I've heard from both this meeting and the compensation board, there were some issues after all that money spent. And I hope that is taken into account next time we consider such a endeavor. I do have some questions that I think should be answered for the public by the commissioners today in regards to these pay tables. So my first question is, I'm sure most people are aware that the county now essentially has a fourth executive administrative position in the executive chief administrator. I was hoping you would clarify to the public how much more money per year that is costing. My second question is Tillamook County Coast Visitor Association employees included in this pay table? The reason I ask is I recently reviewed their current budget, which has wages for $598,000 per year, according to the information I had. And I have been told this is for a staff of less than 5 employees. And my last question, because there is a lot of confusion about this in the community, is will the commissioners please explain the inclusion of library employees in these pay tables despite their operating levy that is voted on every 5 years by the voters? I really appreciate these questions being answered by the commissioners. Again, I'm not making any recommendations on pass or no pass, but just that you consider both the testimony that was just made by Jackie Rogers and just the consideration of how the pay equity study panned out for this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Okay. We have unscheduled items will be happening right after agenda item 7. So that will be after 7. So moving on to legislative administrative, agenda item number 5, consideration of the 9th Amendment to Oregon Health Authority 2024 to 2025 intergovernmental agreement number 026023 for the financing of community mental health addiction treatment, recovery and prevention and problem gambling services. Amanda Bunger, Executive Director, Tillamook Family Counseling Center. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Yes, so I am just here regarding, again, the 9th Amendment to our intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Health Authority. We use these funds primarily for our Evergreen Adult Foster Home. And so I am just here seeking approval of this amendment.
Okay, fantastic. Any comments or questions, commissioners?
None. Oops,
I'm-
none for me, thank you.
Fully supportive and welcome. Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
in person and
Thank you.
welcome to this process. I know you're new in your role,
Yeah.
and so
I appreciate
glad
that.
to-
And I also have had the distinct honor of meeting with every one of you and having conversations and getting to know you a little bit. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay. I have nothing. I support
Great.
this.
Thank
So,
you.
I'm ready for for a motion.
Promotion, all right. Mr. Chair, consideration of a Ninth Amendment to the Oregon Health Authority 2024-2025 Intergovernmental Agreement Number 026023 for the financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention, and problem gambling services. I move approval.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda.
Have a good day. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 6, consideration of tourism advisory committee recommendations for 2025-2026 TLT tourism-related facilities community grants. Nan Devlin from Tillamook County, the Tillamook Coast Visitor Association. Good morning, Nan.
Good morning. And Lisa.
And Lisa Griner,
I asked,
who is the president of the board, of the committee.
not at all.
Just a board member.
I asked Lisa Griner to join me because she has been the longest serving, I believe, TAC member. And she takes such great notes. And as we go forward, I wanted her to be involved. So before we start, I wanted to thank the Board of County Commissioners for the support for these facilities grants. We are now in our 11th year of these grants, and there is no other county in this state, and I don't know of anyone in Washington, state of Washington, who has supported the community through facilities grants like you do. You really have set a standard for community-based tourism, and I'm not even sure that the commissioners at the time had ever heard of the term community-based tourism, but that's what you're doing. And I really am thankful for you for doing that. And I recently saw a very proud announcement from a neighboring county that has a lot of money. And they were saying they were so proud that they were able to give out $73,000 in grants. And I almost made a comment on it. I said, no, back up. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that. But really, you have, over the years, have put out about more than $7 million in facilities grants. We have put out another $1.5 million in marketing grants and sponsorships. And that's not even counting the investments that you have made in this county and other tourism-related projects. So thank you so much. You have set a standard, I think, for the nation. And because I have contacts in tourism all around the United States, and I tell them these things, and they go, how do you do that? And I said, we had a county that needed it. So thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so we had 18 applications this year. There were quite a few. The total request was $952,908.49. The budget for facilities this year is $400,000. So TAC, as we go through these rankings and line items here, they made 2 recommendations for funding. So we'll go through that. All right, so I think you have the same packet that I do, I hope. So in ranking, we had, the recommendations are Tillamook Estuaries Partnership. They requested, it's for their schematic design and part of an overall design because they had to move their educational building and center from the Port of Garibaldi over to Bay City, just near Kilchis Point Reserve. So they were asking for $75,000, and as we went through the whole list, the TAC members said, I'm wondering if there's a different way that we can spread the wealth here. So they went back. At first, they were going to give them $75,000, but they wanted to give more applications an offer as well. So suggested, if more TLT isn't added, which we'll talk about later, they give $50,000 to TEP. And the same with City of Rockaway Beach, which is working on an extensive Lake Lytle facilities improvements, and they are putting in a lot of money themselves. They had asked for 75,000 and said as an option, 50,000. Same with Friends of Cape Mears that needs their Fresnel lens replaced, which is very, very expensive to do. They had asked for 75 and TAC approved for 50. And Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad, which is completing their water tower, which is part of their railroad depot project, but it also provides water during wildfires if needed, and then they can do it very quickly. So that, they also asked 75 and awarded for 50 as partial. The Oceanside Action Partnership is doing the tire trail rebuild, and they're asking for 13,400, and TAC fully funded that at 13,400. The city of Wheeler, they're improving their waterfront area, and they got a partial grant or partial fulfillment for 46,780. And they provided us a very detailed what all that money would go toward. And we have a couple of construction people on this on TAC, and they said these things would not be considered, but they did give for the major portion of 46,780. Oceanside Action Partnership again is using, they have a, this is, and I will tell you that the two Oceanside ones came as a result of the Oceanside Community Development meetings and workshops and things, the workshops that we did. And they're asking for a shared use path design and engineering study. And that is 35,000, and TAC agreed to fully fund them. The TORDA, or Tillamook Off-Road Alliance, is also asked for 75,000. They are doing a big build out at Ridgeline Trail with parking lot. And as you know, they've been working very, very hard on this project. They asked for 75, TAC recommended 50. And we'll get down, when we get through these, we'll show what the recommendations are. The Netards Oceanside Volunteer Fire District and Firefighters Association, it was asking 46,000 for long-term storage for emergency supplies. This is a project that also came out of the Netards Community Development Workshops, and they were asking for 46. And TAC agreed for 35 with no additional funds
I
requested.
think there were some things that didn't qualify
Yes.
for, and so that's why it was a reduced amount for that one.
Absolutely, yeah. The Doryman's Heritage Center, they would need a 100-year land lease. They're in their next phase of development of the Doryman's Heritage Center in Pacific City, which they've been working on for years. They too asked for 75,000, recommended at 50. And the Quandah Community Center needs some entryway improvements. They had asked for quite a bit of money. They did list out, again, what they were going to do with that, and a lot of it did not qualify. And we had a long discussion about that, because there are two people from Pacific City on that TAC, and they agreed too that not all of it qualified. So the total for the ones that TAC is recommending, with reduction from 75,000 to 50,000 on most of those, was $448,025. And that is if you would consider adding another close to 50,000 to the fund, to the budget. However, TAC also agreed to ask, and they wanted to ask very politely, if you would consider those $50,000 ones, or the ones that were reduced, to go up to their full amount of 75, the ones that they're requesting go up to that amount. And that, if you did that, it would be a total of $598,025. So it'd be almost another $200,000 to put into the facilities grant fund.
And part of that conversation was because we don't know what's going to happen with TLT out of the short session. And so we don't know what this process will look like next year. We don't know what the fund will look like next year. So we said, let's make an initial recommendation and also let's ask for everything, just to give you two options because we don't know what this will look like next year.
The other thing is there were some that were not awarded for very specific reasons. The State Forest Trust of Oregon applied on behalf of the Tillamook Forest Center, and they wanted to do a technology upgrade, but this turned out to be like computer equipment, large, touch screens, things like that, that does not qualify for the 10-year real property Oregon state law. The city of Tillamook had asked for Goodspeed Park repairs and improvements. They currently have a grant, but the public restrooms, as the TAC said, have been shut down for years. There is no water fountain, is that correct?
I don't think it was, they had listed the water fountain, but then no cost for it, no
No
estimate
cost for it, that's right. So they decided maybe they should rethink that and come back and ask
And
next
I
year.
think the biggest sticking point with that was, that's great if we get them all up to speed and they look nice and they're open, but then what's the ongoing maintenance plan and how do we keep
Keep them
it,
open.
yes, how do you keep it open? And there was really no information about that. So, okay, we give you money, but then they get closed down in 6 months because the same problem happened. That was our concern.
The YMCA, which has received two $75,000 grants over the last 2 years, did a budget that did not include the grant request at all. And instead, they listed 3 other funding that they had, and it covered the cost of the project. So there wasn't really any need for another facilities grant. The Natards Community Club wanted a storage shed and portable generator, but the storage shed, if I remember, was not for visitor things, but for community groups supplies, so it didn't really qualify. Sitka Center for the Arts and Ecology wanted a redesign entry. They wanted some other lighting. But they have also received 2 grants in the last 2 years, and there was just not enough information there to really say, does this qualify? The North Tillamook Library Friends, now we ran into a situation like this last year when the Friends of the Fairgrounds asked for lighting in the tennis court, but TAC was wondering, well, is this part of the county library that should be doing lighting in the North Tillamook Library? And it's $5,400, is not a lot of money, but it seemed to be that was a county property. And then finally, it was the city of Bay City. They are doing kind of a long-term plan, but to redo the entry, when you come into Bay City and there's the park up there with the greenway, I should call this up there. And
It's where the reader board is.
Yeah, thanks. And it was, they want to turn that into kind of a visitor center, not a building, but walkways, pathways, parks, landscaping. They just want to make the city very more attractive to enter. This is kind of a little longer term project, so we were going to request that they apply next year if possible. Any other comments?
More comment?
We had the conversation with TAC is always so engaging and thoughtful, and I really appreciate working with them. I'll miss them, so it's great.
Yeah, I appreciate all the work that the TAC and Nan you've done on these. Commissioners, comments?
Thank you. I second that. Thank you for this work. Thank you for your ongoing work and for this grant round. It's very helpful to have the TAC go through these applications. In answer to Nan's question, the North County Friends Group, the Manzanita Library building, I believe, is owned by the North County Friends Group and not owned by the county. So I believe that's true. And so I think that 5,000 would qualify. And But you're right, we had that thing last year with county property.
Yeah, and that's what caused some hesitation on that,
Yeah.
so.
I support all of the projects that you recommended. We asked County Council, Brian Leibel, for his, to take a look at these, and he had some feedback. One of the things that Brian mentioned was the how long-term storage for emergency supplies qualifies. I'm for funding this request because we are planning for emergency supplies for visitors, specifically for visitors. But I didn't dig into the application, and I didn't know how did they parse that out? How did they say these are for visitors specifically, or did they?
They said that they are doing a community plan for people to have their own supplies at their homes, and they're doing a big program about that. They formed an emergency volunteer corps, and the EVCNB and I think the South County one as well came and talked to them. This was also part of the community planning sessions we did. And so they advised them on how other funding could be available as well. So that's why.
So this, are they saying that they're going to have one box set aside that's specifically for visitors?
They just said it would be for visitors, what goes there.
Their comment in their application was that we as locals are talking a lot about it and prepared, but if something happened in the summertime or when there are visitors, they likely, because their point was, what, like Oceanside would be cut off for 3, 4, 5 months. And that we as locals may have supplies, but visitors wouldn't have supplies to sustain them long-term.
Absolutely true. I agree 100%. So,
And I will just say too, is that South County Emergency Volunteer Corps was awarded a similar award, a similar grant for this same thing a couple of years ago.
So I'd like to defer to County Council to just talk through your concerns about that, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. So when I was reviewing these, and I was, and first of all, is emergency preparedness, right, is paramount, right, and where we live, and so when I was looking at the statute, right, the definition of tourism facility, but also the criteria in the application, and the county's priorities when it comes to tourism. So I was, what I saw as far as the application criteria was more of a direct effect to the direct impact on tourism. And I can see, an indirect benefit here as far as in the unfortunate event of a catastrophic disaster, that there would be some supplies, emergency supplies, for those visitors. But that was more of an indirect benefit as opposed to a direct benefit of supporting tourism here in the county. And so that was sort of my concern, and then also my question of scope as far as how broad, is the county setting, the scope of this application process to encompass that sort of more indirect benefit. Just as an example, the water tower, right, with the railroad, a dual use, right, has a dual use as far as not only for tourism, right, and the whole build up of the railroad depot, but also the water there to support wildfire or fire suppression. That is a great example, right? Where here certainly these connexes, and then also is as far as the connexes being a permanent structure, they can be attached, and this is where you get into construction. It's like they can be attached, but is that really a permanent fixture? And now becoming part of the real property. And that's why I was kind of looking at the statute as well. Is this a, now becoming a part of the real property? Or are they just being, they can be attached, but they can also be just picked up and moved as well. And so there was that concern as far as it really being a building, but also the indirect benefit. So those are my concerns, and I can, and I note, notice, right, this has been approved in the past, and certainly there is a nexus there, right, to tourism. So I'm not disputing that. It's just how far down that continuum do you go to where it's now it's a bit tenuous to to what the county wants as far as supporting tourism. So that's why I wanted to just kind of share my thoughts regarding that specific application.
Commissioner Bill, before we move on to another one, can we, I'd like to might as well talk about this one.
talking about this,
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
just talk about this one now, and then we can. First of all, I appreciate that you chimed in on it. Thank you for forwarding them. I think that was fantastic to have that feedback. I've always supported this idea, and I think the statute is really silent on this, right? But one of the things that TAC, I appreciate that they did was they also have a definition of real property under the Treasury regulations, and under there it says inherently permanent structure, permanently affixed to building or other permanently affixed structure. Affixation may be to land or another inherently permanent structure, and may be weight by weight alone. So I think that covers us doing it in the past. I think also if something bad happens on a summer day and we are isolated in any of these county areas, the visitors are going to be utilizing whatever stores that we have, fuel, food. I think this has always been important to recognize that this is part of the impacts of tourism, is that we will have tens of thousands of people here. So I support this, and I appreciate your questions, because I think you kind of feel the same way. It's like, yeah, and so I do support of this part. I don't know about you.
I will tell you the part that gives me pause is remembering a conversation we had specifically with representatives from Orla when we were sitting here, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and we had a number of conversations just about like, how do we determine if this is mostly for tourism use, and to the example of the water tower, its primary use is for the tourist train. So pour water into the steam engine. There is an ancillary community use should it be needed, but the primary purpose. So what I heard you say that might make that work is that in hand with this, there is a campaign for community members to build up their own stores of emergency needs. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, and that's what was in, that was part of the discussion with NETAR's Oceanside.
So is there a plan that's written that says the emergency plan for NETAR's Oceanside is that community members will maintain their own stores and that a box will be placed for tourists? Is that written somewhere? Is that like a part of a plan, or is that just a general in the ether conversation?
That was in the grant, but that was part of the conversation.
It was written in the grant, though.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, again, I go back to that conversation. Jason Brandt took my brain a little bit to find his name. Jason Brandt and his clarity, I felt like he gave us, which was the way we understand this, and they are the ones that make it either easy or miserable for us, right? Was that if it is clear that its primary intention and that has an ancillary. So I guess I did not go into that application with all the details to lock it in my brain, but that to me is the question. So now we go back to legal counsel, because I really prefer to do my work backed by legal counsel. I think that for me as a commissioner, I lean deep into that. So in the grant application, it specifically indicates that there is a program for people who live here full-time in a box intended largely for visitors. Does that, if we had to defend ourselves on this, if you will, is that enough there, do you think?
And in count that was precedent, we've already done it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And haven't been approached by Orla at all.
So I
Prior
think
to the Orla conversation,
I think
believe.
that would make it work, Commissioner.
Mhm.
That if that is part of their plan, this that these connexes that are strategically placed in these certain locations, which within, right, is, and those are the locations, one, they're above the tsunami blue line, right, and but also in those locations where they, visitors would be, most located to support them. I think that would, and I think that would work as far as supporting tourism. But I think it is key, that the primary purpose is for visitors, coming to Tillamook County, and the emphasis on everybody else being prepared, right? Because once you open those connexes, right, during an emergency situation, right, and so you can understand, there's all the people, right, that the visitors may not know where to go, but guess who does know where to go, right? Is everybody that lives there, right? So I think that's right, very important, for be a part of the plan to emphasize that.
Thank you. And can we provide that feedback back to them as we provide this grant to them to say, there is an expectation that the primary use of this is for visitors, and that we would request, that however, whatever plans they're creating, that it is clear where the expectation lies, because I believe the ones we did before were before this conversation with Jason Brandt, which is, I think, part of why that came up in that conversation, if I'm remembering correctly. So I do want us just to be thoughtful. To your point about precedent, there was then a conversation, I think, occurred after we did that, in which, while not getting our hands slapped, we did get clarification on how they saw it, which was differently. So for me, I would look for all of that backup through the NETART's Oceanside Emergency Group to say, this is our plan, and our plan includes this for locals and this for visitors, so that should Orla come and say, we have a head scratcher here, we want to get clear, we're able to say, we're very clear.
Mhm.
Here's why we're so clear. And then I'm totally happy to do it. And other communities that want to do the same thing, where they create a plan, which is, again, exceptionally clear, that they have this campaign for the people who live here to do the 2 weeks prepared, that, if you, the North County group has great materials, and I think the other groups have been sharing those as well. Let's put these two together so that it is clear. There are two areas of focus.
Okay, yeah, I know the EBCNB
Thank you.
is
That's the council.
really active on, of course, I have a house full and a car full of emergency
Right,
supplies because of
And
their
I do think that's important.
information.
And I think it's important because I do think that we are looking for all kinds of ways to fund emergency response, as are all of these groups, right?
Yeah.
And I think for us to be clear, under what conditions do we consider TLT as appropriate for emergency preparedness? I think if we can set a standard, I think that will be helpful. And most of them have put together plans or are putting together plans at some level, right? And if they're clear in those, it gives us clarity to say, y'all are doing the great job we know you're doing, and you're understanding, that you do have to plan for visitors. And we all wish that wasn't the case, but it is an absolute reality that we will be inundated with visitors, as we are pretty much 12 months out of the year now.
And I think South County did that too. They had stores for locals who aren't prepared, but also for the visitors, and they would get hit pretty hard down there.
Yeah, and I think it's important, and I think that we are putting things in short-term rentals, if I'm not mistaken, that talk about the evacuation routes, et cetera.
Yes.
Another piece that would be easy to, again, justify the expense as a visitor expense, if in there is, here's the Connex box and where you go
Yeah.
for visitor supplies, right? Again, this is a really good use, and we just need to back it up with the systems, in my mind, that ensure that we really are making a differentiation.
That's great.
And we know when the emergency comes, we're going to do anything we can for everyone to survive. And visitors will be a part of that.
I think they'll be able to do that. The contract, I can't access the whole contract, but it says exactly that they're preparing households for the Cascadia event. But unfortunately, tourists visiting NETARTS when the Cascadia event happens, blah, blah, blah. So it is addressed in the application.
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to move on to another concern?
Sure. Well, I don't, Brian, I can't remember which, was it the water tower? There was a second one that you mentioned.
No, it's
wasn't
the Kiwanda Community Center.
Oh, okay. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, Commissioner. In that PDF file there was only the first page of the application, and so I was not able to review it.
Oh, that's right.
So I just wasn't able to
Which one was
The
that?
Kiwanda Community Center.
Oh, yeah.
It was, so they
Ask.
asked for, I think what we funded was the replacement of their ADA doors. For the front, but they were asking for painting, they were asking for refinishing of their floor that we did not approve because doesn't qualify. They were asking for, like laminating their front counter. So there were a number of things that didn't qualify that we, nope. And then, but I think that 17,000 was for the purchase and installation of new ADA doors because they're starting to fail.
Yeah, that's it. That was a long discussion, too.
It was, yeah.
Okay, well, are you ready to deliberate?
Well, I was gonna ask you if you had any particular thing you wanted to talk about as well.
No particular grant application, no.
I have, I just want to make a couple of comments that I think, just because I feel like it. The city of Rockaway Lake Lato Restaurant, I'm really happy about that project. I had lunch with the mayor the other day. And for those that don't know, that the property there is actually county owned that we lease to the city. And they're making some serious investments. And I just wanted to reiterate that also, they are our partners in the visitor industry. All the cities contribute 1% of their TLT to us. We get 1% of that, and that's a significant amount of money, especially for a city like Rockaway. So I think this is a great investment for that. It's the county does own land adjacent to it as well. So I just want to say that I think that's a great partnership. I'm glad to see we are.
Yeah, and they have a lot of supporting funding as well that they've already received, and this takes them to the project cost.
Great. That's really all I have. So we can deliberate.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the, ask for everything because we don't know what the future holds. I'm disinclined to go up an additional 200,000 because we have a long list of facilities needs and interests that we haven't even addressed yet. And so I would be disinclined to do the 598 amount. The 448, maybe. I'm certainly willing to consider that if my colleagues here are, and I would like to tentatively add the 5,600 or whatever it was for the North County Library, assuming we don't own that property, because I don't think we do.
Don is online, he might be able to answer that.
Terrific.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Don, are you able to join us via multitasking? Good morning.
Hello, Commissioners.
Good morning. Have you been following this conversation?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah. And so with regard to the North Tillamook County Library building,
Yes.
yeah, that it is, it's owned by North Tillamook County Library Friends. They own all the capital resources at that site. We provide services through that. We provide staffing, but they are charged with the maintenance and management of that building.
Thank you so much. That's what I thought. So I would like to add that amount in, particularly because it was low.
Yeah, that's great.
I have no problem with that part. And I will just also say when you all mentioned that, Lisa, you mentioned that you are concerned about what's going to happen in the short session. We are too.
Yeah.
And that's why I would also concur with Commissioner Bell that I am probably not okay. I'm definitely not okay with the 598, and I'm willing to discuss the 448. But I'm sure that Commissioner Carr has much to say on this issue. Because
I have much to say on every issue, is that
right,
right,
that
Commissioner?
is true. But also on this one, the thing is everybody in the tourism industry and in our county, we all are nervous,
On
and
edge.
concerned. And there's a lot of misplaced fear, I think, that's driving a lot of this. But then we have to, we joke about like TLT will solve everything. And the problem is we actually need TLT. We need this bill just to keep the doors open. We're going to be approving salary increases to get people into market. And so we have to keep an eye on all of our money, where it's being spent. We haven't got SRS funding, now we're getting that, but that's money we can't touch for other things. And I also like to remind people that we are the largest single short-term rental runners, owners, the county is in the county with our 600 campgrounds. So we have more singular, our tourism is so important to us as well in our parks department. And just for revenue and finances for us. So like we have to keep that in mind too. So that's why I think,
Yeah, the 70 TLT, 70% of the county's TLT comes from short-term rentals.
yes.
70%.
Yes. So, and our campgrounds, like we want to be investing in them because they help return revenue directly to keep the county moving. So, but I'm sure you have much to say.
I appreciate your framing, Commissioner, very much. So I don't have a ton to say. I think I would, just for context, people may be saying, why the library? Isn't that a county resident function? And I would just remind people that Dawn has in the past, I believe, provided numbers for us as to how many of our visitors seek out our library. And often it is for internet access, because when you are traveling, if there's a problem with internet access in the house that you're staying in or the community, or if you're just here for the day, our libraries are actually very well visited by visitors. So I just throw that in for the record, I guess, because we are talking about how do we make these decisions, because we have, to Nan's point, for years focused on what benefits the tourists and also benefits our community, because that's how we've wanted to invest. We want to make sure that it's mutually beneficial. So I would just touch on that, and I would be in support of the lighting at the library with that in mind, because there is a large visitor usage there. I also am not at this point willing to stretch to that 598.25 to the framing that Commissioner Fournier gave. We just have a lot of unknowns on our horizon, and we set 400,000 because we felt that that was doable for us. And so I would prefer for us to stay closer to that number. I am willing to talk about the ones that are here and whether or not there's any. I mean, I support the recommendations of the TAC. Couple of things that I thought if we wanted to try to bring it down to that 400,000 to talk about would be the Tillamook Estuaries partnership, whether they are, and I apologize, again, it's really hard to actually get in and read all of the 353 pages that you all sent us, so I
Did it though.
bless your heart. And with that in mind, so I don't know what their timeline is exactly and whether or not that is something that if we wanted to stick to 400,000 for this year, that could be a next year thing. I don't know where they are in their process, and I would suggest similarly with the city of Rockaway Beach. I did look at their timeline, and it looks to me like the placement of the restroom is somewhere between probably 9 and 12 months, maybe more from now. So if we want to work our way down, I would look at, are all of these things imminent? And maybe you have some more information on anything in its imminence that maybe would make sense to push forward to get us to that 400,000.
Likewise with Torta, but I totally support Torta, and we have had grants with Torta in the past that have been awarded, but then the work hasn't occurred for some years down the road. So I'd also be interested in the Torta timeline.
And I guess any timelines, really, when you look at this, if I said, I really want us to get to 400,000 and stay within our priorities, there, what might not actually get spent.
Well, I had several conversations with Torta over this, and they said they're ready to go. They've completed a lot. They've been very hardworking.
And then on TEP and or the city of Rockaway on timeline?
I don't know about TEP. You know, they've had to, because of their relocation for their center, they've had to take some steps back. And a lot of what they have previously done is still applicable, but because of the different land type there, and they have to do another schematic.
What about the lighthouse as well? I mean, I'm familiar with the lens. I know why it's damaged. What's their timeline, and that's not going to prevent them.
It's off a while. For TEP, you mean?
No, for the Fresno lens.
Cape Mears.
Cape Mears.
Cape Mears.
So there's only, what, like 1 or 2 people in the United States that can, but I feel like they said that it was sometime in 2026.
Yeah.
That they have
It's going to be quite a.
queued somebody up.
And this has been long planned. Yeah.
Well, so the question is, can they take less now? Can they use some money, earnest money to reserve that spot and then?
But we are in 26 and they're going to do it in 26.
Yeah.
Well, they could be doing it next year.
Fiscal year.
Just wonder when they're gonna do it.
Right, because we will consider again next year in January theoretically, right? So I think that's my question, if any of these could be put as a priority for next year in January, because the expectation is that that's really when they're gonna need their funding.
Mhm.
If I could add something to that,
Please.
thinking of timing, to add to Aaron's question, if any of these commitments help leverage the funding. So while from a cash flow standpoint, they don't need it, but they actually need the other funder to know we have this
Right,
75 might be
committed.
part of it as well.
Mhm.
Which, my fellow commissioners, isn't also an option for us, which would be to approve the full amount, but to go ahead and plan to remove that from next year's cycle, in the 48, whatever we're going over in this cycle, or at least to have
Now
that.
it's 453, 425. If you add
453,
in
thank
the
you, 453.
library.
So for the 5325, whether we would consider approving that today, but also placing a marker to consider to removing that from next year's pending
Fund.
what happens,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And what happens with
Yeah.
funding.
Mhm.
Because I do think we have a lot on our plate with TLT, that we have a much larger conversation to have philosophically about what portion of that sustains the county's very basic operations. Should we be allowed to do that? And again, some big projects pending that the county has on our list. So with all that in mind.
I was going to ask if you have heard, if at the February session, if the 70-30 changes to 40-60, when does that go into effect? Has there been conversation about that?
July 1st.
July 1st or?
I believe it's 90 days from the passage of the bill, which I think would make it July 1st if they pass it at the March, April, May, June, end of June.
Okay, and is there any retroactive to that? It's just going forward?
No, if you are holding funds, you would also be able to spend them the same as the new bill, is my understanding.
Gotcha.
Is that it's not only what is generated after that date, it is what
whatever's-
you are currently holding, you just can't do it until
Until.
after that date. And I believe
Gotcha.
it's a 90-day, which would put it essentially July.
Thanks for that clarification. I was always wondering about that.
Well, and remember that bill is not done.
Right.
So what I just shared is what we think would happen, but it is not an absolute.
Sure.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is, and I think we're in agreement just by the head nods, not that one, is that we do want to move forward with this with the stipulation that we may end up removing it, but that we can do that on our own. We can still just approve this.
We can approve this. and
That's what I was
then-
gonna ask. That was my head nod was, should we still do the motion since we're making a little bit of a,
Yeah, I would do the motion clarifying the amount,
okay?
and the project that you've added. And then if you desire to, put on record that you want for next budget season to consider a reduction of 53,425 in what I submit to you for facilities grants,
So 53,425 is my dollar amount,
is the overage.
Okay.
Correct, is that what you have? Yeah.
which makes it a total of 453,425.
Yes.
Are you ready to craft that motion?
So would that would need to go into each contract? Would that statement need to go into the contracts with the organizations?
I don't think so.
The 53?
No,
It
no.
just
okay.
means that next year, if there is a fund, it might be
Gotcha.
347, whatever, or whatever the
Thank
amount
you.
works
Okay.
out to be.
I understand. Thanks.
Okay?
You gonna craft this?
It might take me 2 or 3 tries. There's a lot here. And we'll let Rachel throw little phrases into the motion as I go if she feels that I missed the mark. So, Mr. Chair, in consideration of Tourism Advisory Committee recommendations for 2025-2026 TLT, tourism-related facilities community grants, in the amount, let's see, community grants. I move approval of grants in the amount of $453,425, which is the presented recommended TAC suggested if additional TLT is not added, plus the addition of the North Tillamook Library Friends Grant for $5,400.
Mhm.
And this overage funding may be removed from next year's facilities grants pending available funding.
I second.
I have
the
a-
easy part.
I have a fantastic motion seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I
Hearing
want to
none,
do it again differently.
hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries.
All right, thank you. So what I will do, because I believe this is my last week on the job, I will send emails to the awardees as well as those who did not receive an award and why. And I will CC Lisa Greiner, and I will CC, would you like me to CC you, Rachel? And also Dan Haig, who will be the one putting together the contracts. And I have left explicit directions on how to do that with templates. So I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nan.
Thank you, Nan.
Thank you all.
Thanks for helping us do
Yeah.
that.
Good discussion. Always,
Great job,
always
TAC.
challenging.
Great job.
Great job, Tech, and thanks to everyone who applied. There may be some people listening or watching this afterwards. We appreciate the community's partnership in how we care for and entertain our visitors. You know, I mean, it all comes together with the organizations and businesses in the community that do the work, so.
Yeah,
But I also want to say, these grants also fund for us locals. Like, it's not just stuff for visitors. We get to enjoy it too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, as long as it has that primary
Yes,
focus, so
right.
that we are all in alignment with the law.
We get to be tourists in our own town.
What we do, it's 50, what is it,
I
50
am-
miles
that's-
of
you know, actually,
travel.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
We do get to be tourists in our own town.
Well,
And I-
50 miles away, so we can go to the north or the south of
Right.
where we
Yes,
are.
we
right?
can.
There is that whole thing about what is the legal definition of a tourist.
Right.
And I,
Sure.
and I will also tell you that I did a couple of years ago, I did a workshop with the graduate students in the tourism at George Washington University, the graduate students in a program. And the fellow, the professor who is the head of that department said to me, I have been looking all over the United States for a DMO that does community-based tourism. I finally found it in Tillamook County. You're leading the way. You're a leader in this, so I thank you a lot.
Thank you. And Nan, thank you. This is your last week on the job with
I think so. I'm supposed to
TCVA.
receive my
Yes,
agreement
so,
today.
Just thank you for your leadership in that work. I know that when we first started this, when we got the TLT, it was bumpy. We were trying to figure out what that looked like. And there was a shift a couple of years in that really was to change that focus to this community-based tourism that you're talking about. And you have led us through that effort beautifully, and we appreciate everything that you have done. So thank you for your
Thank you very
time and your
much.
service.
Thank you.
You're here. Thank you. All right. Moving on to agenda item 7. Consideration of a partnership agreement with LA County Library for the One Book, One Coast project. Don Algeier, Library Director. Good morning again.
Good morning, Commissioners. I apologize. It looks like I don't have camera access right now.
That's okay. We can see your little face on the
Yeah, you have a
on the
lovely
little
photo.
emoji,
Yeah,
whatever
lovely
that is.
photo.
Excellent. Well, I am very excited this morning to present to you an agreement with LA County Library around the participation in the One Book, One Coast project. It is a project that is going to be going on in libraries all across the West Coast, large and small libraries all over. And what this agreement will do is it binds us to providing copies of the selected book for the program, as well as to do at least one program related to the material. And then it will provide us access to digital copies of the book. It will provide us with marketing and programming resources, and as well the ability to take part in the author talk at the end of the program. The book that was selected for this year is George Takei's They Called Us Enemy, a graphic novel that depicts his family's experience during World War II, in particular the Japanese internment camps. And a well-received book that has been fairly popular. The project would kick off in February, really, with February and March being devoted to promotion, and then in April and May, the major parts of the program would run with programs and reading, and so we're pretty excited about this. I'm very excited about this. It's something I've thought a lot about. A lot of libraries have a sort of communal reading program that they do. It's a pretty tough thing to pull off. And I've always thought, boy, it would be nice if libraries got together and did a little bit of this work together so that more libraries could take part in this sort of program. And so I'm very excited to present this to you and glad to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any comments, questions?
I don't have questions, but I am also excited about this. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for not only Tillamook County residents, but also for people all up and down the coast. I think it's really cool that we're partnering with the LA County Library. That's cool. And I love book clubs. I love to read. It's a passion, and it's really great to be able to talk about literature with other people. So I think this is wonderful, and I look forward to it.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Carr.
I agree with my colleague. I think this sounds like a really cool addition to the pieces that are available at our library. And while I am not generally a reader of graphic novels, perhaps this will push me to try something new.
Well, I will say, as a child who grew up watching Star Trek, George Takei, Mr. Sulu, if you don't know that, I am familiar with the story of his family. I wasn't aware that he had a graphic novel, so I also am in support. So I'm ready for a motion.
All right, Mr. Chair, in consideration of a partnership agreement with LA County Library for the One Book, One Coast project, I move approval.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let's both do it at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you,
We're
Commissioners.
supposed to do it at the same time? Oh, no, I think
No,
it has to
you
go.
do it at the same
Oh, we
time.
do.
Thank you,
We're
Doug.
shortening the meetings for you,
Thank you.
Commissioner. Mr. Chair, we know you like to run a short meeting.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, we have an unscheduled agenda item. Consideration of change order number 1 to contract number 6730, prevailing wage contract for construction with Fairline Bridge Incorporated for the Lagler Temporary Bridge. Chris Lady, Public Works Director. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you recall, we had the emergency repair on the Crystal Creek Bridge. We brought in used beams and built that bridge within 10 days. Many of those beams went to go to the Lagler Bridge, of which we were able to solve some of our long-term issues with load rating issues with that. So used beams to us, and then we moved the used beams over to Lagler for the Lagler Bridge. When we put this thing out for contract, that was based on what we knew about Crystal Creek and the material that was going to come off of that. The estimated cost at that time and the contract at that time was based on what we knew was going to come across. What we did not realize until we started going through there is that it required the contractor to supply some thrive beams, which are the guardrails that are attached to bridges. So there was additional costs associated with that, a total of $16,463. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this as an unscheduled item. It was actually signed by county and the county contracts officer and the contractor on January 7th of this year. However, after several attempts to get the signed copy back to us, it had been signed, it just didn't get sent to us. We finally received it earlier this week. The contract actually expires on January 31st. So it's, instead of doing a contract extension and a change order, we requested this to be done. I am speculating that that contractor was tied up with other emergency responses that we've been working through in January and December. So I request that this change order, number one, be approved to accommodate the Thrive Green guardrail that was not anticipated. It's the supply of that material that we did not anticipate at the time of contracting.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad you got it to us on time. Once again, a bridge or culvert. That's what we do. Any comments or questions?
I'm fully supportive.
Supportive.
Ready for a motion?
Mr. Chair, in consideration of change order number 1 to contract number 6730, prevailing wage contract for construction with Fairline Bridge, Inc. for the Legler temporary bridge, I move approval.
Second.
Hearing a motion in a second. Any further discussion? None? Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Chris. He always just disappears.
It's gone already.
It's just poof. Okay, agenda item 8, consideration of a letter of support to Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board for the Tillamook Bay Watershed Council's grant application. Commissioner Aaron Scar.
Thank you. As you, I think, both know, the Tillamook Bay Watershed Council has been going through a process of really reconstituting itself, and it is on a really great track. They have a new executive director who is doing a great job. They have they did a fundraiser this year. They have been working on putting some projects together. And one of the things they really need to do is to rebuild that board to be as diverse and representative of our community as it needs to be. And that has definitely been a challenge. As we all know, sitting on various nonprofit boards, it's difficult to get people engaged. So there is a grant through OWEB, which is specifically a community outreach grant, which would assist them with this work. So they are asking for our letter of support as they apply to OWEB for that community engagement grant. And I would hope that we would support them in this, as they have done a lot of great work to get back to where we hope they would be.
Okay, Commissioner Mill.
I'm totally supportive. This is a real success story. As Commissioner Scar said, they've been working toward this for some years. And I'm happy that they're there. I'm happy to hear they have a new executive director. Maybe they would come at some point and make a presentation. That would be great. I haven't met them, so I'd just be interested.
Sure.
And yes, fully supportive.
I am also fully supportive. I love these partnerships in our community. So
Excellent. Mr. Chair, in consideration of a letter of support to Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board for the Tillamook Bay Watershed Council's grant application, I move approval.
Second.
hearing motion in a second. Any further discussion? None. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And just to follow up, he is working on scheduling the annual report presentation for us. That just
great.
clicked in my brain. I was like, hasn't he been here? But no, we've just been working on that schedule. So
Wonderful.
you will meet him soon.
Great, thank you.
Okay, moving forward, agenda number 9. So just confirming, Rachel, these all to be taken individually, motion for each one.
Correct, yes. You'll need to read, if you want, you could read each of them into the record now.
Yeah.
And then I think you could take a motion
Great.
for items 8 through.
So Chair Fournier can read them all, and I get to say I move per agenda item 10. I move. Oh, sweet.
That would be my recommendation.
Read away.
That sound good? Okay. Okay, we're gonna do that, so it's gonna take me a little bit of time. Get ready. This will be agenda items 9 through 15. Okay. In consideration of adopting Tillamook County pay tables for fiscal year 2025 to 2026, effective January 1, 2026, for part-time employees. Agenda number 10, consideration of adopting Tillamook County pay tables for fiscal year 2025, 2026, effective January 1st, 2026, for ASME employees. Agenda number 11, consideration of adopting Tillamook County pay tables for fiscal year 2025 to 2026, effective January 1st, 2026, for Teamsters employees. Agenda item 12, consideration of adopting Tillamook County pay tables for fiscal year 2025 to 2026, effective January 1, 2026, for Teamsters Sergeant employees. Agenda number 13, consideration of adopting Tillamook County pay tables for fiscal year 2025 to 2026, effective January 1st, 2026, for Justice Facility employees. Agenda item 14, consideration of adopting Tillamook County pay tables for fiscal year 2025, 2026, effective January 1, 2026 for health provider employees. Agenda number 15, consideration of adopting Tillamook County pay tables for fiscal year 2025 to 2026, effective January 1, 2026 for non-represented and executive service employees. Deborah Jacob, Director of Financial Services and Treasurer. Good
Thank
luck.
you. Round of applause
Thank
for
you for
that.
waiting patiently back there.
So before you today is the culmination of an 18-month process. It was a monumental lift by HR in collaboration with Troop for the pay equity and class and compensation studies. I'm only ancillary to this, so I'm going to call out everybody else that has worked on this project. Mary Jo in HR and building out the new pay tables that you see before you. Rachel Cardwell, our payroll specialist, that worked on 6 months of retroactive calculations for 300 employees. And everybody else involved throughout the process. So following this meeting, these pay tables, if approved, will be imported to ADP and processed for the 1/30 pay date for pay immediately to employees.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm sure there's some comments and questions. Commissioner Bell.
I applaud everyone who has been working on this so diligently. This was a very heavy lift, so thank you for your professionalism and service, everyone. And I'm supportive of these changes. I appreciate that Jackie came and made public comments to us earlier. I think we can address her concerns. My perception is that we can move this forward and address her concerns in the future. And so I am fully supportive of moving this forward today.
Thank you. Commissioner Scar.
Thank you. Yes, I would agree. This has been a monumental lift. We had the opportunity yesterday in the elected officials compensation board meeting to talk a little bit about the history of how we got here, so I won't go through it again, but if you want to know, there's a recording from the compensation committee that talks about 5 years worth of work that brought us to where we are today. So I understand, and this was also a theme of yesterday's conversation, it may not hit perfection, but boy, we have come a long way. We had this work done by a neutral third-party company who is an expert in compensation. We had every employee have the opportunity to provide feedback into their job description and to tell that company exactly what they did, and then managers reviewed that, and then the union bargained that. So the union also had the opportunity to hear from their represented staff as to if they thought there was a problem, and then union representation had the ability to bring that into the union bargaining with the county in order to correct any errors if there were to be found, questions, concerns, all of that. So again, this has been a monumental body of work that we hope is setting a really good baseline for county employees going forward. Our last really real complete compensation study by an outside party prior to our work starting in 21 had been 20 years before that in 2001. So again, 5 years of work to get here, monumental lift by everyone. And I too appreciate everyone who had worked on this. We had some questions in public comment this morning. I'm not sure that I understood all of them, but I will do my best to quickly answer and make sure we have clarity on the two that I think there were three. So the CAO and the cost with the new position, we'll have to address that separately. That is not part of the pay tables. But what I will share is that we did talk about that at the time that we made those changes, and many of the duties have been spread into other positions. We did not hire complete full new positions. So the cost differential is not an entire position. It is just, a magnitude, right? Because we've got each person took on some additional duties, which spread out that cost, and it's not equal to a full position. So that's what I can say off the top of my head. I think she asked about Oregon Coast Visitors Association staff being in our Tillamook Coast Vision Association staff, they are a separate organization. They are not county employees and therefore would not show up in our pay tables. So I hope that that answers that question. And then there was a question about why the library employees were in our pay tables, because they are on a levy. They are county employees regardless of how they're paid for, and that is true. That's why you see the Tillamook County Community Health Centers folks on our pay tables, even though they really are paid by the revenue that they generate. So there are many different funding sources for different departments within the county government. Public Works is another one. They are paid specifically by state funding, not county general fund, but they are employees of the county organization. And so these pay tables cover everyone who is an employee of the county organization. So I hope that clarifies for the questions that were asked. We're always happy to answer more if we need to do so. Okay, so thank you. Those were my comments.
Okay, thank you. Couple of things I was also going to address, and thank Jackie and April Bailey for their comments. And the one thing that you didn't talk to, that April was concerned about the cost of the compensation study, and all I can say to that is, this is the first time we've done this like this, and we did an RFP for contractors, and this is a contractor we've got, and there's a lot of really good work in there, even if there are some flaws, which is expected. But I wanted to take an opportunity to speak, and I spoke about this yesterday. I have a unique situation, I think, besides for Mary Jo in the background, of anybody in this room, of being an employee for 22 years with a 19-month separation in between that. And I can say 2001 was when I was hired. So that's the last time we did something like this. And so I can tell you that when folks, and a lot of folks have concerns, and I agree with Commissioner Bell that I think we can move forward with this and address these concerns moving forward. This is a process that we are improving and committed to improving as a whole county government. We have a philosophy that didn't exist before, and I can tell you that, and I remind folks, employees that are talking about this, I keep asking, was this the most transparent it's ever been in the history? Because it certainly is since the time I've been here. I feel very confident that we are on the right track to making this just like the best, probably in the state, of where we just have transparency and a true desire to get our employees the compensation they deserve. And I think we do that. This document, or these pay tables aren't perfect. They are a work in progress. And we're committed to improving that progress, that process in progress. So I just wanted to say that that was a big part of it. I'm happy that the work is over. I want to thank you guys. I just know how much, I'm looking at Mary Jo back there, because I just know she was just building these things and doing so much work, and I appreciate what you've done. And Brian, welcome to the fray. You get the tail end of it, but we're all happy to be moving forward. Yes, it's not perfect. We're not perfect, and we're going to get better. And I'm really proud of the work, so thank you. So I'm ready for a motion. And you get to say something simple.
Okay, but I get to say it many times, I believe. I cannot do them all as one, correct? I cannot say I move approval of agenda items 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Do I need to say each one individually?
I think that, Commissioner, that you could probably say them all together, right? And if there's discussion, right, then you'll probably want to identify which one that there's a discussion on. So I think you guys one motion, including all of them.
Okay.
But then being able to, if there's any discussion, relate it back to that individual item.
Okay,
Maybe
perfect.
just do the pay tables for name them.
I was
Asking, okay, do it up. You know me, I like it. Sure.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Mr. Chair. In consideration of agenda items 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, in consideration of adopting Tillamook County pay tables, I move approval.
I second.
Hearing a motion in a second. Any further discussion on any of those items? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motions carried.
And go import a file.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank your staff for all of their hard work in making this
Thank you, Mary
happen. It's amazing.
All right. Any board is that the word? Yeah, any board concerns? None for you today?
So there was a question, and I asked Rachel this morning, and I think I might ask her to help me answer it again. And that was around, we know that with the approval of the pay tables, that, oh, sorry, it's around implementation. So around, with approval of pay tables, that obviously everyone who is getting a pay increase will receive a pay increase in timelines. You're going to send an email out to staff, is that correct, to let everybody know, both AFSCME, represented, et cetera?
Correct. I believe Mackenzie left. All managers were informed today, and all employees should receive an email by Friday, which is when they will receive the payment. And so this, while it concludes the 18-month process, the treasurer's office did a monumental lift on getting the retro for the compensation adjustments on this coming paycheck, because that was not slated to happen until February. So with the January 30 paycheck, with the exception of elected officials, all employees should be made current with any adjustments they had coming to them, which included a COLA and or a compensation adjustment.
Great. Perfect, thank you. And then the other thing that is out there that if people were following the board briefing conversation is around non-rep and executive and longevity pay, I think was something that we had in concept said, yes, we as commissioners would do, but we have not yet passed the policy specifically that would cause that to happen. Can you just talk about that briefly?
Yep. So in my mind, the policy is within the employee manual, which is not yet adopted by the board. So especially given the retro calculations and the monumental lift with the treasurer's office, I didn't think it was appropriate to throw longevity into the mix at that time to add to already complicated calculations. And so coming before you is the policy for longevity, and maybe perhaps at that time you can decide on when you want to make that effective, but it is not included in any new employees who it will be new to on the January 30 paycheck. So longevity, for those who don't have it and are slated to get it, it's still coming.
Thank you. I think it's helpful to have that clarity for folks who have been following along and looking for when that might happen. So it will, we just need, we've got
Basically, all employees will, if you have longevity, all employees will get it going forward.
presuming that we pass the policy, yes.
Except for elected officials, because that hasn't gone through the full process.
Correct.
Right, that, and
Yes.
for those wondering what's happening with elected officials, the compensation board completed their work yesterday, which was a set of recommendations that now goes to the budget committee, which is the 3 compensation committee members and the commissioners. And then following that, it will come as a recommendation in front of the commissioners specifically. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I know there's a lot of pieces still to come, and I know that there's a lot of questions, so I hope that clarifies for everybody when and how things happen. So thank you for that.
Okay. Other meetings and announcement. The commissioners will hold a board briefing today, Wednesday, January 28th, 2026 at 2 p.m. to discuss weekly commissioner updates. The meeting will be held in Board of Commissioners Room 106 at the Tillamook County Courthouse, 201 Lower Avenue, Tillamook. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607 #. The commissioners will attend a workshop and forest tour with the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Tribal Council on Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026 at noon. The workshop will be held at the Tribal Council located at 9615 Grand Ronde Road, Grand Ronde. With nothing else, I will adjourn this meeting.
Executive session.
Oh, sorry, we're going to recess this meeting at 10:26 to go to executive session under what your ORS, Ryan? Do we know? Did I put you on the spot? She has.
192-660 sub 2 sub E to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions.
Thank you. We good? All right, everybody, welcome back. We're back in session. We're re-adjourning. No, we are going to adjourn. We just left executive session. No final decisions were made. I will adjourn this regular meeting at 10:47 a.m. See?
Yeah, well,
Can I just say, yes, can I just,